Hello and welcome to Youth Open Shop Live. My name's Ryan. I'm here with Kirsty and this time Dustin, who's helping me. And we're here to answer your questions and help you learn more about bikes. So we're doing this every week on a Zoom webinar, and also on YouTube now too. So if you guys would like to join us and ask your questions live, anything bike related, you can join us on the Zoom webinar. And here we've got some links. So go ahead and click transition there. Sorry, technical difficulties as always. But we're here to sort those out with your bike, and we'll sort them out here on YouTube. Anyway, so what we're going to be doing today is we have different things, but sorry, I got ahead of myself again, but we've got some links. First up is tiny.cc/BC newsletter. Now, that's if you want to sign up for our newsletter, get ahead of time news about what we're going to be doing. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, the link will be down in the description, but you can join us on the Zoom webinar by going to tiny.cc/YOS-Live, and that'll be down below in the description. Now, we do these every Tuesday, and we usually do these at 11 a.m., but since school is starting again, we're actually going to be moving this to 5 p.m. on Tuesdays. So join us next week for 5 p.m. on Tuesdays. I believe we'll be doing a special episode with a guest presenter. And if all things work out, we'll be doing breaks. So be sure to join us then as well. Now, the other links we got tiny.cc/YOS-LQuestion. Now, if you're watching this after the fact and you want to submit your question, we still want to answer your question here live on stream. So go ahead, go to that link, and then you'll be able to submit your question, suggest a topic, let us know what you want to learn more about on the stream. And then we'll go over it live then. So yeah, and finally, there's my email address. Finally, it's probably the first thing on the list. I need to look at that list again. But it's ryan@bicyclecollective.org. And that's if you want to submit your bike photo. We'd love to feature your bike photos, and we'll go over more about the rules for that in a second. But first, let's go over what we're going to be doing today. Today, we've got bike locks. Now, this is very important because if you lock up your bike, you won't guarantee that your bike won't get stolen, but it'll definitely help. Because the one time I got my bike, well, there's been a couple times I got my bike stolen, but the one time that I really regret was the time I just left it on a rack, not locked up. And then somebody just drove by and took my bike. So if you want to help prevent that, that's what we'll be going over today. Now, as always, I just want to go over the safety rules. First up, we've got some internet safety rules. Here they are. Now, these are very important because we're here on the internet, and I'll just go over them real quickly. We go over them in a lot more detail in previous videos. So be sure to watch those, and we'll also be posting these on our website as well, bicyclecollective.org. But first up, be excellent to each other. Second, guard your privacy. Third, bike photos. And now this is important. If you take a picture of your bike, do it against a plain background, like a wall or your yard or something like that. And finally, always ask for permission if you're under the age of 18. All right, that's it for internet safety. Next up, we have work safety. Now, work safety is always use the right tool for the job. Today, the tools we'll be using are locks and cables, and we'll go over what the right tools and the wrong tools are in a second. Next up, ask for help. If you need help lifting something or knowing how to use a tool or holding something still or just help in general, always ask. There's always someone that can help you. And it's important and that's a good way to keep to stay safe, which leads into the final one. Always keep safety in mind. Keep the safety of you and the safety of those around you always is like highest priority, right? All right. So all right. That's it for safety rules. Again, if you want to look more into those, you can while watching previous videos. Those ones are pretty good too. So now we've got this bike here. This is our Pacific Chromium purple mountain bike with gears and a new seat that we put on in a previous stream, and the tires aren't flat. And we want to keep this bike as ours. We don't want to lose it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over some do's and don'ts of locking up the bike. Now, there's no guarantee that your bike won't get stolen. No matter how awesome your lock is, or where you hide it, if a thief wants your bike, they're going to find a way to get it. But here's a fun story. This is a fun story I like to tell. It's kind of a joke. So two guys are camping, and one guy, he's just sitting at the campfire, just, I don't know, roasting a marshmallow, and all of a sudden his buddy just comes running through, just tears through the woods and into the campsite. He's like, a bear, we got to get out of here. There's a bear behind us. And he starts running. He like gathers some of his things and starts running. And the other guy just sits down again and starts taking off his shoes. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, I run faster without my shoes on. And he's like, you're not going to outrun a bear. Bears are super fast. And he's like, I don't need to outrun the bear. I just need to outrun you. Now, in general, do not feed your friends to bears. That's the moral of the story. The other moral of the story is you often don't need to be super secure. Like, you don't need to lock your bike up in a safe every night. But you do need to be more locked up than the people around you. So that way your bike isn't the easy one to steal. So it's a bit grim, but in my experience, the way I've found, because my bike got stolen because it was the easiest one to steal. And so there are two important factors: where you lock up your bike, and how you lock up your bike. Now, where can refer to the secure location or the safe area. If you can, try to keep your bike inside your house, your apartment, your yard, inside a safe place like a secured gated area that or inside your work, or if your school has like a secure gated area where you can lock your bike, that's a good one too. A place where there's a lot of people can often be, it might seem safe, but lots of people can, sometimes a thief can just walk up and start cutting your lock or picking your lock, and then they'll just assume that it's their bike. And then the thief will just ride away with your bike and people won't know that it was yours. So putting it somewhere where people know that it's your bike is a good one too. And finally, try not to put it in like a dark alleyway somewhere or behind a dumpster, or somewhere where people can't see it, like where no one can see it. Because then the thief can have all the time in the world to sit there and use their pocket knife to cut through the steel cable of your lock. Obviously, that's not an ideal way to steal a bike, but if you leave it if you leave it overnight in a place where people can just go to town on it, then you'll be without a bike. So finally, how you lock up your bike is what we're going to be going over mostly today. Now, there are a couple different kinds of bike racks that you'll find. My favorites are the ones that are just posts that have the little loop thing around them. Otherwise, there's also ones that are just, and this here is a bike pump. Do not lock your bike to a bike pump because, which kind of goes into where. You want to lock your bike to a secure location, a place where you can't just lift the bike off of what you've locked it to. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but maybe you might have seen someone lock their bike to one of those round posts that you see in the parking lot of a grocery store or something. And it's like, oh, that's silly. All you need to do is lift up the bike and then it's yours. But so something that you can't just lift the bike off of, and then something that's actually secured to the ground. One time I went to the movies and the bike rack was just a little bike rack, like the thing this bike is resting in right now. And it weighed less than the bike that was locked to it. And that's silly because all you need to do is drive up and pick up the thing that the bike is locked to, and then you have a free bike rack too. So always make sure that what you lock it to is secure. Like you can't lift it up, you can't steal it as well as the bike, and that it's not something that the bike can just be removed from. So but anyway, back to how we lock up a bike. Now I've got two methods here. I've got a cable lock. This is a combination cable lock, and this is a ULock. And this one also has a big long cable. Now, not all ULocks come with cables, and they usually don't come with cables that long. But we'll start off with the regular cable combination lock because it is actually less secure. All it takes, I actually decoded this lock and set the combination to bike, and it took me like a minute and a half to do. And honestly, if a thief wanted to, they would just sit there and decode your lock and it would look like that it was their bike. So I generally don't go for combination locks, but then I also would warn against cable locks. Oh, okay, here's a good question, yeah. So this is a questions from Anonymous. So if you do want to submit a question, just join us over in the Zoom page. You can just join from your browser and then go to the Q&A and write your question in, and we'll see it live here on the stream. And Kirsty's watching that and making sure that I see every question. So be sure to do that. But this is anonymous, from Anonymous, and you can submit your question anonymously. But the question is, are key locks better than combination locks? It depends. A cheap key lock is no better than a cheap combination lock because you can stick a screwdriver into some key locks and they just turn and pop open. But there are some combination locks that are actually really good and really hard to decode. But that requires doing your research because not all locks are made the same. There's all sorts of YouTube videos and guides on the internet saying which locks are good because this cable lock isn't that great, but maybe there's something that's even less expensive than this cable lock that works even better. So doing your research and finding a lock that works well is really important. And unfortunately, I can't list them off right here, but internet's good for that. So answer your question, key locks better than combination locks? Generally, yes. But quality combination locks do exist, and you don't want to get a crap key lock because key locks that are not good, you can just pop open with a screwdriver. Okay, so anyway, as I was saying, cable locks are also generally, they're good, but they're not very secure because all a thief needs is a pair of cutters like these ones, and they can just clip through the lock. It might take them a while, but you can do it. And sometimes you can if you get a big enough tool, you can just do it instantly. Or if you have, I've seen some really dinky little cable locks that are very thin. So you want to avoid those. Anyway, real quick, let's go over the basics of locking. Now, obviously you don't want your bike stolen, but generally you also don't want parts of your bike stolen. So a big thing that happens a lot, and maybe you've seen it, is people will have their wheels stolen off of their bike. Because I think 3 weeks ago, we did a stream on how to remove the wheels and seat off the bike. Well, fortunately, if a thief watched the video, they might know how to do that too. So you're going to want to watch out, make sure that your wheels are also locked up. Obviously, the most important is the frame. Second priority are the wheels. And then there's other priorities too. And we'll go over those in a second. But first, let's go over how to lock this up. Now, I'll go over my preferred method is what I call the triangle of safety. In between these bars here, this bar is called the seat stay because it makes the seat stay up. And this is called This bottom one here is called the chain stay because it makes the chain stay elongated, because if it weren't there, the chain would just flop all over. And if this weren't there, the seat might fall backward. And this is called the seat tube. That's what the part of that frame is called. So seat tube, seat stay, and chain stay. Don't worry, there won't be a quiz, but just in case you were wondering, that's what those are called. But this here triangle is what I call a triangle of safety, because you do a simple thing, is I lock the wheel through the triangle of safety, boom. And all of a sudden, I can't take the bike because it's secured inside the wheel, and I can't take the wheel off because it's stuck to the bike, which is also locked to what we're locking it to. But, so that leaves, at least, they can't steal my frame and they can't steal my wheel. That's like more than 3/4 of the bike, effectively, like what you need for a bike to work. But now the other very important thing for the bike to work is the front wheel, which we've left unprotected. So let me unlock this again. Okay, there it is. The password is bike. Sometimes, there it is. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to extend the lock, and I'm going to loop it through the front wheel, and then loop it through, and then lock that in. Now, this will make it so they can't steal, at least not without cutting the lock or decoding it or whatever. They can't steal the back wheel, they can't steal the front wheel, and they can't steal the frame. Now, there are other things you can't steal on a bike, and I've seen, it sucks when it happens, but I've seen people have their pedals stolen or their seat stolen. Now, obviously, if there's something really expensive and really special on your bike that you don't want stolen, you might just take it off your bike and put it in your backpack if you're leaving your bike outside for a long time. Obviously, the best thing to do is just to take your bike inside with you. Then you don't have to worry about it. But let's say you can't because there's no space for your bike and wherever you're going. Well, you could just take off your seat, put it in a bag, take off a flashlight or your water bottle or your pump if you got a pump on the bike, or any accessory that you don't want stolen, you can always take with you. That's kind of the best thing to do. So, but this is how, and there are options too where you can lock the seat to the frame, but I don't have anything like that. You can actually use like a piece of cable and then pinch the cable or something just so people can't lift your seat off and take that. It is possible to ride a bike without a seat, but it's not as fun as you might think. So let's go ahead and go over. So that's the method. Again, and let me show you how I do it with a ULock. ULocks are by far my my preferred method here, because it's a hard, usually the good ones are made out of hardened steel, meaning this is really hard to cut. Even if you had big old bolt cutters, it wouldn't be easy, or you would need big bolt cutters that are more obvious. So if you just have a ULock, you can just stick it through that triangle of safety to whatever you're locking it to, and then lock it like that. Now, let's say you're locking it in a secure location where people aren't just going to pick up your bike and walk away, like carry it off. You could lock the back wheel to the frame, and that would make it so they can't ride the bike away. But obviously, we do want to lock it to something. And I've got a cable here. Now, this one is super long. Obviously, and it's like 8 feet long. 2.5 meters, maybe, if you're not in the US and use other methods. But anyway, what I do is no matter how long the cable is, you can usually get away with just taking one end and threading it through the other loop. And then taking the ULock, sticking it through, and then putting the loop on there. And boom, Now your front wheel is secure and they won't be able to just walk away with your front wheel. All right, so that's how you do that. There's other things as well, like there's big old heavy chains you can use and big old thick locks that you can use as well, but this is just kind of the basics. And let's see what else. Can't remember, but we do have a question. This is from Andrew S. from Ogden. He said, I locked my bike and lost my key. What do I do? Well, I would not recommend going and trying to cut your lock or steal your bike back on your own. Because if you get caught, then you have to prove that your bike's yours. And the police, if you actually go to them, this happened quite a few times where they said, like, the key broke, or I lost my key, how do I get my bike back? You can actually, that's something you have to prepare for ahead of time. So if you haven't yet, what you'll need to do is register your bike. Now that means you're gonna have to first take a picture of yourself with your bike. So that way you can be like, hey, look, this is me with my bike in my yard. See, totally my bike. And then you can show that off. And that's one step. The next step is very important, is to get the serial number of your bike. Underneath the bike, underneath this area right here, okay, had to make sure the bike wasn't locked. But right here is a serial number. And hopefully the 720p stream can't pick that up because we'll might have to blur that out in post. But if not, the serial number is right there underneath and it's engraved in the bike. If you take that number and you write it down, you can also register your bike on websites like bikeindex.org, or I know Salt Lake might still do bike registration through the police department. That's another way you can do it. But the important thing is to write down the serial number of your bike and have that with you and the picture, because then you can just take that picture, you can take that serial number to the police and say, hey, look, this is my bike, and they'll actually cut the lock for you. So that way you don't have to worry about like, oh no, I had to steal my bike back or I have to cut it. So registering your bike is very important. If you can, again, that link, I'll link that in the description as well, bikeindex.org. And you can also go to just have the picture of yourself with your bike and have it written down. All right, so that's it for the work portion. Now, obviously, I kind of went over how the different ways. Before we go over we also want to do an off-topic Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, whether it doesn't have to be related to locks, anything bike related, just go ahead and post that in the Q&A or in the tiny.cc/YOS-LQuestion link. And we'll go ahead and read any question, whether it's about a past video or something we haven't covered yet. We'll do that in the after Q&A section. So before we get into that, we'd like to say, hey, share this video. If you're watching on YouTube, like it. Like it, share it with your friends, your family. Yeah, I don't know. What else do people do on YouTube? We don't have comments on these at the moment, but if you do like it, you can always send us a question or a comment through the tiny.cc/YOS-LQuestion link. I'm going to get really good at saying that by the end of this. And keep an eye out, like sign up for our newsletter and all that, and keep an eye, be sure to follow us on all those things. All right, so to recap what we did today, we went over using a cable lock and how you loop it through the back wheel and the front wheel and the frame and lock it to whatever you're doing. Oh shoot, I did realize what I had forgotten. Now let's say you're at a bike rack where there's like a post in the front. Make sure, and if you have to park your bike off to one side of it, that works too. But the best bike racks are the ones where you can lock the frame at least to whatever you're locking it to, like that. So make sure that you can at least lock your frame. Locking your tire, then you'll end up with a tire at the end of the day when you come back out of the movie theater it'll just be a tire lying on the ground. All right, so use the right tool for the job. The right tool in this case, my preferred tool is a ULock, but usually any lock is good as long as it's secure enough for so that you don't feel your bike's going to get stolen. Obviously, do the best you can to lock up your bike. Just whatever the best you can do is, do that. And finally, let's see. We went over if there are any accessories that you want to save, always take them with you inside and stuff like that. So, all right, excellent. So let's see, do we have any off-topic Q&A today? All right, no off-topic Q&A today. But if you have any questions, anything bike related, last week's episode, this week's episode, next week, whatever you want, just go ahead, put your questions in the comments and let us know what you want to talk about, and we'll talk about it here on stream. So yeah, join us next week. Again, we talked about at the beginning, next week, the streams will always be on Tuesday, and we'll do our best to announce them beforehand on Instagram, on our Facebook, on our website. But every week it'll be on Tuesday. Next week will actually be Tuesday at 5 p.m. That's when you can join us live. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for watching. You guys go out there, ride your bike, be safe, have a great day, and thanks for watching.